Hola, hola, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Talking Shit with this girl right here, the ACR herself. How are you doing today, amiga?
I have decided that I'm not wearing makeup today. My skin deserves to breathe. I chose my room to sit in. I love my king size bed. It's huge. This is where I take care of myself, where I rejuvenate. So today is self-care day for me.
Well, you don't even need makeup. You look great.
Thanks. I like it. I like it when my skin can breathe. I put a little bit of moisturizing oil, and that's like it after washing. Feels good.
You know what's interesting? I had a dream about you. It was my last dream that I had this morning. I had this weird dream that I was a part of this, and it kind of goes in the theme what we're talking about a little bit, I think, where I was a part of this event, and it was a bunch of girls, but they weren't girls from wrestling. They were just girls I've known from the entertainment industry. And you were there and you stood out so much. How tall are you, by the way?
5'8".
It's so weird because there was a girl in my dream and she was telling me she was really proud of you and that she just wished you would stop obsessing over how tall you are and when you've gained weight. I don't know if that means anything to you, but I don't know who this girl even was. I don't know this person in real life. She was just this person. And she just kept gushing over you. She was so proud of you because we were all on this stage. It was almost like a performance. And you really stood out and you had you just felt so confident. And then that helped me because I was really nervous in the dream. I don't even know what was making me nervous. Mm-hmm. And then there came a part where I put on this outfit because whoever was helping run the show was getting on me about not being ready, in the right outfit. So I went to put on this really cute outfit and then I went to put shoes on and I could only find one shoe out of all the shoes they had in the wardrobe department that was my size, and then all the other ones. And I know that when you look up dreams, what they mean, usually shoes indicate if you can't find them or whatever, it's not being ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the wrestler dream where our boots aren't laced yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was totally that vibe, and I was freaking out because I knew I needed to be on the stage. But what was really cool about the dream is the consistent vibe was that you had my back. Mm-hmm. And that I could trust you. And even though I was having fun with the other girls that were involved, it didn't make me necessarily trust them. So that was my last dream I had this morning. And it was
interesting. I mean, I think you're that I really believe in your abilities. Even if you're just it's just a dream. I'm I don't know, that's interesting. That's interesting. I kind of want to dissect it a little bit.
And what made me remember it, because sometimes you dream, you just kind of move on, is that you have a red top on. And in my dream, the last outfit I put on, it was this red skirt with white polka dots. And I got excited because it reminded me of Minnie Mouse, which of course reminded me of my Chihuahua Minnie. So I was oh, it's like Minnie. And then the shoes were to go along with that vibe. And that's why I wanted just those shoes. But again, it was either, because I wear a size 7.5. So the shoe sizes I kept finding for the other match were always 8 or 9 or 6.
That's stressful. I wear 7s. I got tiny little feet.
Nothing wrong with that.
They're like Barbie feet. I know we just went off topic. My ADHD is full blast today, but I have Barbie feet from dancing for so many years. They're literally stuck.
That's so cute.
They're are you a dancer? I'm yeah, I got Barbie feet. They're stuck like that.
It's okay. Barbie feet are cute. See? Look at that. And you didn't have to pay for it, people.
I got Barbie feet. They are for sale.
Hit her up. So I have this podcast with my friend Stoner Jesus that is now on Channel Attitude, which is Vince Russo's network. And something I barely touched on because I just kind of skimmed through it was I'm very shocked now kind of looking back at how depressed I've become over the years over letting go of wrestling. And I thought that'd be a really cool topic to talk with you about because okay, being depressed about wrestling and the things that I didn't like about it or whatever. And like the biggest mind F I have is Metal Jesus. He works for a company that works a lot with like space and like NASA. And so I've told him before, I'm like, imagine if someone told you that for sure the world is flat. For sure, we've never gone to outer space. Like it's a complete lie of what you work for. So when I kind of peeled apart the layers of wrestling, that's the mind F. Like it's not just, oh, I'm disappointed. It's, I literally thought it was about something else and in entertainment too. And it just wasn't. And ultimately, that's what made me want to retire. So I kind of thought in my mind that retiring would cure that depression. But now, because I'm not performing, because I don't get that adrenaline off of a live crowd, it depresses me in a completely different way. What are your thoughts on that?
When you talk about this, it reminds me of Daphne because, rest in power, my sister, she very much struggled with her brain damage, her CTE, and it did make her depression worse. And I remember so many nights that we've spent together and we're drinking, having sister time. She talked about missing it. And I'm still in the throes of my career. Even though I'm not wrestling that much anymore, mostly for health problems that are minor, but I still dance. I still run my show. So I still get that high from the performance industry, right? So I think it comes from our identity is tied to this, especially me and you who do something outside of wrestling performance wise in some manner. You've done some like acting stuff, right?
Right.
I'm a dancer, open to acting stuff. I've been performing, like, when like family reunions, you're like 6-7 years old, you're like, hey siblings, like I'm gonna do this dance. And it was like Britney Spears and I was like 6, it's a part of me. I think it's a part of you too, especially because wrestling itself, we're a family as much as we hate each other. We're a family. I always say that, when I started seeing my veterans go to funerals of their veterans, I said, oh my God, we're really going to know each other till the day we die. We're going to each other's funerals. And that really hit home when I went to Daphne's funeral. And I saw so many people in the business that I loved, that loved me. It's hard to have an identity outside of wrestling, especially when you've put so many years and so much of your time and passion and all your emotions into it. I think that's what you're dealing with. The wrestling industry, bullshit. I'm in it. I know it is. I know it's bullshit. But I can't say positively that I would be happy when my time comes, whenever that is, whether it be, knock on wood, hopefully not injury. I hope to make the choice to leave. But even then, I'm not going to take it easy. I'm not taking bookings right now. And I'm like itching. I'm like, oh, I need to wrestle. I have to be involved in some way. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's one of those things where there was a time where I was almost defiant towards it. Like I wanted to be completely 1000% different from it. And I think where I got mixed up with, like, I hate to admit it, but specifically like when I would date musicians or actors, it made me kind of feel like, see, I'm better than wrestling, in the sense of like the people that I was sharing locker rooms with would pop for the fact that like I am in these people's personal lives that are on TV. Just like a fan feels about watching wrestlers, the wrestlers were fans of these actors or musicians. So it made me kind of feel like, see, I'm on a higher level. And it wasn't to be cocky. It was because I was constantly doubted, constantly just looked at as like eye candy, didn't have the ability. And it made me kind of feel like value. Like when when this person over here who's like a top star who really didn't talk to me, all of a sudden was talking to me because they're like, oh, you're dating so-and-so, can you get me tickets to their show? And then it made me feel like, psh, yeah, right. But I was like, yeah, bitch, you come to me, like whatever. Now you need something. So it kind of gave me this, like, to myself, a validation of like, see, I do have it going on, because I don't have to just date wrestlers. I can date people who like whatever. And so I feel when everything came tumbling down for me is when I realized it wasn't just wrestling I didn't want a part of, it was entertainment in general. And I'm not willing to do the things that are required to in both worlds to make it. And I've always been like, oh, I'll just do my website stuff. Yeah. But no offense, but it's like, that's mostly just modeling, and I get bored with it. And I'm just like, how many times do I have to take like a hot picture or whatever? Like, I want to be somebody else. I want to perform. I want to whatever. And yeah, I trickle it in here and there with my stuff, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same of like, I feel especially wrestling for me helped me in the roundedness of entertainment that I have, because I was being physical, I was acting, I was performing in front of a live audience. So it was like, it wasn't just about being a wrestler, it was about bringing my acting and my love of theater into the ring. And that's why when people would watch me and they'd be like, whoa, what is it about you? It's like, that's what it is. It's not just a wrestling show to me. It's my time to be this character or whatever. And it took me some time to where I was just like, I guess I had to get bored of just doing the modeling, that I don't feel fulfilled. Yeah. I just don't feel fulfilled.
That's the interesting thing about being a professional wrestler or being in the wrestling business. And people have already made this like comments to me where like, well, wrestling, when you think about it, it's not just wrestling. Like you said, acting, there's music, there's production. It's such a like big list of performance mediums that is used in the whole industry together. At the end of the day, when people start wrestling after already having usually a failed career, not that there's anything wrong with that, but like you get NFL players, you get boxers, you get gymnasts, dancers, you get so many different types of performance or sports that come into wrestling because we use it all. And girl, there's nothing like it. I remember talking to Daphne. Oh, it's like, I'm going to get emotional because I miss her. But like, I remember she would look at me and she'd be like this. She goes, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. We could hate it all day, but there is nothing like that. There's nothing like the crowd when you walk out. There's nothing like playing the heel and being able to put over another person and get that kind of reaction out of the audience. The WrestleGasm, what I talk about. That's the only way I could describe it. I remember going to like WrestleMania and Raw after Mania during years back on one of the WrestleMania weeks that I was working, and just, I wasn't even watching the show. I was like, enthralled and into the, like, listening to the audience just lose their minds and just feeling their excitement, the vibe. It was shaky. It was like, ooh, tingly, 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 WrestleGasm. There's nothing like it. And I've been to a lot of performance shows, Cirque du Soleil, concerts, NFL games, hockey games, like you name it. I'm a big fan of entertainment in general. Nothing like it. Do you think you miss that? You miss the WrestleGasm? Haven't felt it in a while?
I do. And it's so
crazy. Sometimes.
There was this time where I was backstage, and this is before I was on TV or anything, and it was when WWE was trying out the group I was in with Aaron Stevens and Beth Phoenix, Aaron Damian Sandow, before he was Damian Sandow. And we went like on a whole week loop doing, the dark matches to see if they were going to take us up as a group. And I'll never forget being backstage, and I think I can't even tell you what I was doing. I was looking for something, maybe it was a bathroom, I don't know, but I was kind of wandering the arena, and I was by like some concession area, but everybody was inside. Or maybe where I was at, that part wasn't even open to the public, but I can hear, because the crowd was like right there on the other side of the wall. And I don't even know what match it was, but they were going crazy, and I could hear this guy, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is effing awesome!" And I just like, even right now, like, I had no idea, but that energy and then hearing that dude do that, I was like, I want to make people feel that way.
Yes.
Like, I want to make people feel that way. And something I recently was also thinking of is, to me, because I always get asked, like, what are some of my best moments in my career and stuff like that, and which is always hard to say because there's different variations of my career. You know, there was before WWE, during WWE, TNA days, and then my going back to the indies days. So it's hard to say, but something that always pops up in my head is, and I don't ever know how to explain this to, like, when a fan asks me this, but there was something about the way I would feel when I was in WWE, and I would be back, or TNA, and I'd be backstage, but mostly WWE. Like, let's say I was walking around, and then I would just see, like, oh, there's the wardrobe people, and like, because the show was going on, all the noise was happening inside, like the arena part, like where the fans are and all that. So it's kind of quiet in those areas. I felt so alive in that silence. It was like, wow, I said I was going to be a wrestler. I said I was going to go to WWE. I did it without having to sleep with anyone or screwing people over to get to the top. Right. Like, I did this. And in those quiet moments where I'd just be by myself and seeing like those, I don't even know what they're called, like the equipment stuff they have on like the rollers and stuff, and like they'll open, like whatever those things are called, like just seeing those, it made me feel like, wow, like this is crazy. Like, I did it. And it gave me like this feeling of like, I can do anything. And I feel like that goes back to that depression, is I had that, and then I realized it was kind of like temporary, unless you're willing to politic, or, you know, allegedly there's things out there about people doing stuff for their jobs, favors, sexual favors, whatever. I'm not going to talk about that. But, you know, when that stuff comes up, and then you're like, oh, and that's where when I think about my career, it goes from like this kind of natural high of like the good parts, but then it comes spiraling down to the reality. And that's why, like, some people can be like, well, just go, you still look good, you can like just whatever, you can get bookings. And it's like, but I don't want to. But
because of the bullshit.
Right.
There's like a level of corruption, and I think like wrestling corrupted me. Now, I was dancing 3 years, already full-blown stripper before I even started wrestling, but wrestling corrupted me in a way, not that I'm corrupted, I think just became desensitized. And everyone has their own like limit to how desensitized they get, and it's going to be different from person to person. I am very desensitized to it, to where like a lot of the gossip, you know, it's like, oh, business as usual, especially when fans are like, oh my God, this is going on. Business as usual. I know what's going on. I don't even care to pay attention to it because there's nothing I can do about it but survive it. And a part of me, like the old ACR, who at the time, her name was Amanda, she still exists in me, and it still bothers me. Which is one of the things why I was motivated to start my own promotion, to kind of see if I could make a difference about it. But that's another topic. But it does make you kind of like sit back and be like, huh, I'm having a great time, but it's not what I thought it was. It's like learning Santa Claus isn't real, and then Santa Claus is actually like your creepy uncle, you know, and you're like, oh, I've been sitting on his lap and I thought I was having a good time, I mean, I did have good times. I received gifts. But at the end of the day, Santa is a creep.
I love that you say that because I do think Santa's a creep. I do think Santa is a creep. I am not a fan. I remember years ago, I went to this like film festival and I was invited. So I was friends at the time with McFoley. And he's like obsessed with like Christmas and Santa Claus. And it was this documentary about the different Santa Clauses, like what they do when it's not Christmas season, how they get ready for it. It was very interesting to say the least. But OMG, you should check it out sometimes if you're ever bored. I can't remember.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to look it up because I loved Christmas as a kid. I ended up not liking Christmas for a while because I had an ex that like didn't like to celebrate it, and I was like, I'm not Christian or anything like that, but I just like the colors and the spirit and just the typical Hallmark stuff. And I'm starting to like it again now. Maybe because I'm with a guy. Oh, he's calling. I literally spoke him into existence. I literally mentioned it. That was crazy. So he's sweet. I spoke him into existence. I did. And he's really sweet. We do Christmas together. So I'm in the spirit again. But going back to like St. Nicholas, like I think it's like really trippy when you think about it, Christmas. And I think that's why kids love it so much. I think that's why I like it so much, because I like trippy things. But when you get down to it, like Christmas, I call it the Hallmark holiday because it's so branded. And there is almost like a level of corruption, low key, where it's like really about money. You know what I mean?
It really is. But I love that analogy with wrestling and finding out that Santa Claus isn't real, because like there's so many parents out there that don't want, like, not only do they not want to hurt their kids' feelings, but they like seeing their kids get excited. So it also hurts them too, because then it's like, oh, now that Christmas spirit is gone. And that's what happened with me in wrestling. It's like that and you were talking about earlier about being desensitized. I always thought, hey, whatever, you people do what you want. I'm just going to be over here. And I didn't make a big stink about things. I wasn't opinionated about stuff that I didn't agree with. I just kept to myself. I was like, okay, whatever. And I feel like my breaking point was, and I know we've talked about it before, when I felt like I was getting punished for not being that way versus shouldn't I at least be at least left alone because I look the other way? Like, I'm just looking the other way, like, whatever.
Like, things are so different in the business now. I would say back then, if you were not doing what the cool kids were doing, you were outcasted in some way. Maybe that's kind of like low-key what's going on still. I think that's going to exist everywhere. But what is the same, you're someone that looks the other way. I do too. I don't care what people have to say about it, because I already deal with a lot of stress. I can't be Captain Save a Bitch. You know, I feel like I'm already trying to do a lot with my show. That's a big step for me, especially with my anxiety. But even that we both look the other way, you back then and me now, it's a problem for people. I'm sorry. I'm not the piece of shit. Sorry that I don't go online screaming what's going on in the locker room for fans to know. Honestly, I don't want fans to know, because to them, Santa's real, and I'm going to keep that alive as long as I possibly can. It's a beautiful experience. So I don't want to ruin it for them. Now, do I talk within like my friendships about stuff? I used to, but now I'm bored of it because I can't do anything about it. The gossip is boring and it gives me anxiety, and I do everything I can to avoid it.
It's not going to change.
Mm-mm.
That's what I learned. I used to think that if I spoke out about things that are going on, it was never, whether it's from the past or till today, when I've spoken about things, it's never been for, ooh, guess what I know? Like, it's just been like, look, you want to know the real story? Like, this is what's up. And for me opening my mouth, like, I'm just gonna be very blunt. Like, I've gotten like death threats from powerful people because of me opening my mouth. And that's when I was like, damn, this is serious. And then not only that, the vibe that I was getting from not just fans, but people within the business, whether it's wrestling or entertainment, they're all like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm feeling I'm doing a service, like, especially the people that are within. Like, the fans, no offense, but like, they're not in the business. So it's like, whatever. But when people within wrestling or entertainment and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, like, blah, 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 I'm thinking I'm helping. But then what I realize is enough time goes by, and let's say I shared what this person over here does to people, and like, people are like, oh my god, that's disgusting, I don't even like that person now. Well, when they need something or they want to work with this person, all of a sudden it's like, whatever. And then when I've called them out privately saying, hey, I thought like da da da, oh, it's just the wrestling business, you know how it is, oh, it's just how it is, like da da da. And then that's when I realized, wow, here I am getting so much crap to where I've gotten these threats for what?
Yeah, it goes nowhere. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And you know what? Like, I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and I'm gonna say these people, because I've seen it happen all the time, happens every day in wrestling. It's not about me anymore. I said what I said, and people are free to make their choices that are right for them. And I've learned that's just the right choice for them, and I can't really decide otherwise. And so it does kind of, when you, I guess, go out of your way, meaning like you're putting stress on yourself to talk about something or, you know, try to do something positive. It's so strenuous on the soul that when it's like, oh, nothing came out of it. And I feel like I do have my own theory on how things can be fixed, or not fixed, but at least improved. And I get a lot of shit for it because it's not conventional. Or side note, okay, we're going to go ahead and talk about how when people in the business want things to change, they're screaming online, they're saying this, they're saying that. And it's like, there's actions that you could take. No, you got to talk about it. You got to talk about it. I don't have to talk about it because I'm making actions that I think improve wrestling. I feel like people just like to point fingers. I don't like, you know, me and you, we're both very sensitive people. We have feelings. We care about others really hard. And we know, like, I feel like people like want to point the finger at somebody for something. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. And so that's going to affect us really bad. I mean, I deleted my Twitter. John Cena followed me, everything. I deleted my Twitter because it was just a cesspool of toxicity and blaming. And here's one thing that I don't agree with is this culture of victimization. Me and you are minorities. I don't think that you victimize yourself in that way. I've seen others do it online. And I'm kind of, I mean, I've had my tribulations. So I don't want to sit there and cry and bitch about this going on, this going on, this going on. I'm going to make my moves in silence. And these changes, there's others, it's not just me, it's other people doing the same thing, but they're the ones that get reprimanded by society or by the culture for not being vocal about it. Like, I'm an introvert, I'm not going to be vocal, but I'm a hard worker, so I'm going to work at it.
And you know, on that vibe, another thing that depresses me is I'm a hardened person now because of all this. And I don't like that. Like, I'm hardened. I was
just telling one of my girlfriends the other day, because she was like, you know, she's been my best friend for 15 years. And she's like, you're just so different now, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know, I'm cold. I'm not really cold. I think I just come off cold. Like you said, hardened. That's what happens when you beat up putty enough. It's going to get a little bit hard.
And it makes me so sad because, God, I hope I don't cry. I was just saying the other day to Metal Jesus, I was like, I miss being happy. I miss finding joy in like the smallest things. I miss just like being yay, positive vibe Shelly. And like, I miss that. And it's so crazy because even though I got fired the way I did in WWE, I still had that. Even though I was super sad and made poor decisions because of my depression of getting let go the way it happened. Like when I went to TNA, I still wasn't hardened yet. And then even when I quit TNA, it made me sad that it came down to that, but it didn't harden me. It's like over time, just like, I know I've said this before on our show, a lot of stuff that I came to either realize or was straight up told that like are things I don't agree with happened years after I left TNA. So it's like, it's not like all this stuff was like, you know, I just became this bitter person. It was like one thing would be told to me and then another and then this. And I'm like, what? Like, wait, what? That was going on? Like,
dude, do you feel like it kind of like with all everyone saying this or saying that and this going on, didn't it kind of ruin your spirit?
It did. And
guess what? It didn't get fixed. They
no.
didn't fix it. Exactly. That's why I don't fucking talk. That's why I look the other way now. And I just worry. It's like what is that? What do they say? Like those memes or like those Karen memes where it's like, God, give me the strength to understand, to change that what I can change, you know, and not worry about, you know what I'm talking about, not worry about what I can't change. It's true. I mean, it's true. And that's kind of what I'm at. And it took me a long time to get like this. Because anytime I saw some sort of injustice or something, I mean, up until maybe 4 years ago, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized my spirit was crushed and I hardened. I was not the same. Now I'm forever changed by the turn of events of my wrestling career and learning about how it really is. But that's why okay, self-care. I'm like, self-care day, I'm not wearing makeup. I'm taking care of myself. I'm gonna put myself first. So I'll put my bare face in front of everyone. I don't care what people think. And you have to find that. And it took me a lot of therapy to find that, a lot of therapy. So I'm glad that I'm there. And I think that's why I'm surviving. I don't know about thriving, maybe thriving. I don't know yet. That's up for debate, but you gotta find your way to survive. But I don't want you, Shelly, I don't want you to just survive and be unhappy. That's not okay.
Well, here's like, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, where it really happened was I remember after I left TNA, I just did the acting thing for a few years. And then I went back to wrestling. So I just took some time off. I think it was about almost 3 years. And I remember, I'll never forget, I went to this show here in SoCal. It's called CWF Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went there specifically because I used to have a crush on Colt Cabana back in the day. So I went there specifically just to see him perform because I was being creepy. And I was so shocked on how I left that show because it wasn't even about him. It was about these people here in SoCal because I had moved away from SoCal to go to WWE, to go to OVW. And then when I came back, like I said, it was about 3 years that I didn't do wrestling after, or like 4 years, because I came back, did TNA for about a year. And then 3 years after that, didn't have anything to do with wrestling. So I didn't see these people who like I started with. One is like Scorpio Sky, who I love seeing that's in AEW and is doing so well. People like Rick Knox, the referee, like he was just so awesome back in the day. And Scorpio Sky was my first friend in wrestling, like my first friend in wrestling. And so, yeah. Real quick, side note, before I even knew how to become a wrestler and that you go to wrestling school, I went to this mall in Ontario. I grew up in Ontario, and it's called Ontario Mills. And there was this, you know, those little carts that are like in the middle of the mall. Like they're not really a store, but they're because they have a little cart.
The kiosks, yeah.
Yeah, the kiosks. And there was a one that had like wrestling stuff. And so I'd always go there because I love wrestling. And Scorpio Sky and this referee that used to ref here in SoCal named Chris Massey, they worked it. And so they got to know me and I got to know them because I'd always go there. And so when I became a wrestler, it was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, dude, totally. So when I went to the CWF show, people like Scorpio Sky were there. I was introduced to this wrestler named Nick Madrid, and I just thought he was so freaking awesome. And Big Duke, oh my God. Like, I was just like, this is what wrestling, and then it gave me hope that like, I didn't have to be with TNA or WWE. I could restart my career and go back to the basics, where it all started, here in SoCal. And that's what I did. Like, I bossed my way on that CWF show. I started doing indie bookings. And then it wasn't just SoCal anymore. I was traveling the world doing indies. And then like I got to meet cool people like you and me. That's how we met, because I was working the indies, and that's how we were able to be around each other. And, you know, it just was really like this, like, oh God, I fell in love with wrestling again because I felt like there was no agenda or hidden meaning or ties to it. It was just freaking wrestling, like just wrestling. And I loved it. I would be in the most rinky dink shows with hardly anyone there, but it didn't matter. Like, I just loved it so much. And then the longer I did it, the more I saw, even in little tiny companies, like the corruption, the people screwing each other over, everything that made me just disgusted when I was on TV. And I used to think that's because you're on TV and like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of money, you want your spot. But when I saw it, and like when these dudes over here are getting paid $10, if not that, and they're screwing people over, screwing each other's boyfriends or girlfriends, all this drama. And I was just like, what the hell? And a moment that stands out to me is I was wrestling in Vegas and I showed up, you know, driving from California. So it's like hours of driving, getting to the show, that whole tiredness. And I just remember I dropped my bag down. I said, so can we go over this match? Because I just want to get it over with, because all you guys are faking phony bitches and I'm tired of being around you. And everyone was like, what? Because I was known as Miss Positive and, you know, bringing good energy. But at that point, the hardening was just there. And ever since then, I haven't gotten it back. And it bothers me because it's not just wrestling. It's me in my everyday life. When I'm sitting by myself, I don't feel that joy I used to feel anymore. And then maybe it does make me resent wrestling because that's what triggered me to like go down that path. And I just hate it so much that I can't read. And I have moments where I'll feel it for a little bit and it's like almost like a manicky thing. Yeah, okay, I got this. No, whatever. And then all of a sudden it wears off and then I'm back to just being, ugh.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What, like around what time in your life was that turn where you haven't turned it back on yet? Like, because it's going to lead to something. So like around what year was this?
2014.
Okay. I was going to lead with that. Maybe 2014 was like kind of weird. This is maybe 2-3 years only. So still a baby. Just started doing Shine and all the bigger shows. And I would say, and I talk about it with my boyfriend too, because this is something he would agree with everything you're saying and what I'm about to say. So there was something that happened maybe around like 2016, 2017. So I've kind of had my own little dip. I had an injury, which everybody gets depressed when they're injured. It was the first time I actually took a break from wrestling because I need surgery. But when I came back, the business was so different to where like, it's almost like before I could handle the bullshit, but then like the bullshit was getting too overwhelming. And I think when I talk about like wrestling as family, I think that's what it is. That's why you feel good. That's why you have that feeling of feeling good about wrestling, because you saw Scorpio Sky and so, and you felt good. Despite going there and just creep on Colt Cabana, you know, like you were there and you're like, oh my God, yeah, I love this, blah, blah, blah. Because I do the same thing. When I get around like my people, especially the people that I started with, like when I had my wrestling show, I rented the ring from Palmetto Wrestling Academy. And the owner, Ethan Case, we came up wrestling together. We did the same show together here, PWX, for like 2-3 years. And even though I was like stressed, okay, first of all, we're gonna have to talk about promoter stress, because that's something I've never experienced before. I can go on and on about that. But despite me, you know, racking my head around putting the show together, not sleeping for 2 days before, I was so happy to be around these people again. I also had, who was around, like Amber O'Neal and Angelina Love, Tracy Taylor, Rosa Negra. Like these are girls that I've known for most of my career that I am so close to, or at least like close enough to get a really good price on their booking. And I love being around them, you know, especially because they taught me a lot, because I came after them. My love for wrestling peaked at my debut show. But then again, yeah, it kind of dissipates, because that's how fast wrestling is moving. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. Like the business is just different. A lot of, I would say it's due to a lot of like newcomers, the new wrestlers. There's so many of them that there's almost more of them than there are veterans. And they're not being guided to seeing like the sisterhood that we have in wrestling. There's nothing else like it. I remember talking to my friend Lexi, and she's saying that the new girls that work for her, that they're like, it's cutthroat. There's no sisterhood. And I was so heartbroken to know that it's like that, because when I came in, I was so happy to find the sisterhood that I still very much believe in and very much am a part of. So I think that's why there's a lot more downs lately. That cutthroat, like stepping on people's head. I don't care what happens to you. I only care what happens to me. That's not how I really know wrestling to be. That's my theory.
I think part of my getting hardened was feeling like I did have that with some people. And then it made me, I'm just going to be blunt, jealous that these same people I thought I had a sisterhood with were still all sister with all these girls. But it seemed like because I wasn't wrestling anymore, they can't be bothered with me. And I don't know. I think that's what it is that I felt like I finally belonged somewhere, just to realize that it was just a work relationship for the most part. There's very, I can count on one hand how
That's
many.
a really good point that you're saying.
Like there's people I like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like, I could sit here and list a bunch of girls that at one point maybe I was closer to or whatever, and I still like them, but they're not my homies. You know what I mean? And so I think my old school way of like how I learned was these are people that you're going to make friendships and bonds with for the rest of your life. And I took that to heart. I thought, yeah, dude. And whether it be like people who, and this is what bothered me the most, is when I was on top, being like either in WWE or in TNA, and people who I was bonding with hadn't made it there yet. Once they did, they unfollow me. They can't be bothered. When I hit them up about it, and I feel stupid, like I'm like this desperate person, why'd you unfollow me or blah, blah, blah. It's always, no, there's no issue. And it's like, then why? Like, just because I'm not in wrestling anymore, so you only care if it's like someone you can make money with? And that was another beginning of me being hardened.
Dude, I could totally add to that, because that was one of my biggest heartbreaks with wrestling. So for anyone who's watching this right now, yeah, I'm not on TV. I'm not doing very much right now. Still very, very much involved in wrestling in the background. And when I was coming up and I was put, I elevated my career to where now I could help out other new girls. there has been a few girls, maybe a couple guys and stuff, mostly a couple girls, I'm not naming names, that ended up getting television jobs. I don't hear from them. And I'm like, the only reason that you ever even like got a contract or a look at is because I put you in front of the right people, and I taught you. When you called me, when you texted me for advice, I gave it to you. I don't help people out anymore. These people don't message me. I don't even need like, you don't have to worship me. You don't have to go, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because that's the way it's supposed to be, where we're supposed to hand it. We're supposed to hand it down. And because those that decided to go that route, which, by the way, this has happened to my boyfriend too. Like, I don't think you've ever met him, but like, all three of us would have a great girls' night. Let me tell you, he's amazing. He is heartbroken by that kind of behavior too. Like I said, you don't have to worship me. You don't have to call me and say thank you. But like, hey, I thought we were cool. I thought we were friends. And talking about friends, I've noticed, like you said, oh, it's just a work relationship. Yeah, it exists like that with some others. And that was kind of hard because I'm very like, I already suffer from social anxiety. So when I'm social and I'm your friend, that is like a blessing, I think. Okay. It takes a lot out of me to be out and about and be social and loving. So it's really hurtful to learn that it's a work relationship, which is not a bad thing. I'm going to say it's not really a bad thing. I think we're sensitive. I know I'm sensitive. But at least I know my homies, my girls, are my girls. You being one of them. And also, I have this thing where I end up being mostly close to the ones that have left wrestling. When you think about it, or are nearing the end of their careers. I don't see a reason to treat you any differently. Like, let's be honest, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not going to TV by being your friend and filming things together and doing stuff. This is really because I love you, So I don't know. I don't understand that way of thinking. So I can't relate. Like, girl can't relate. Not me. And I think you can't relate either, because I know you'd be the same. Girl, I could leave wrestling right now too, and you're already out. You'd just be like, join me.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of your involvement in wrestling, you have to tell us all about your first show.
Whew, okay. Actually, I could go on and on about this because I think I did something good for once. Exciting to say, I had a lot of setbacks, a lot of like cancellations. I lost some money because I had booked flights and stuff, and then they canceled, and I was like, whatever, I just gotta make it happen. Despite the things that went wrong, everything turned out great. The people that did the production and did the ring rentals, who are in front of wrestling, really good wrestling all the time, they were like, you have something here. I had my friend DJ Indigenous come play house music. And I had, so Amy Love? Brad Attitude's wife?
I don't think so.
So Brad Attitude did work for the WWE years ago. And he's married to Amy Love, supermodel Amy Love. She is one of my homies. I've been wrestling with her for years. You would love her. She's a lot like us.
Cool.
And her husband, Brad, is also a very, very good friend of mine, very good friend of my boyfriend's. He comes in later because he had like a wedding. She's like, he's going to be late. And I was like, okay, it's all right. He comes in like, as I'm paying everybody, which number one, the fact that I was able to pay everyone well that night, I was like, oh, I actually did it. And he gives me a big hug and he goes, or I said something like, so I'm not just a shithead wrestler. I can do it. And he's like, well, you're still my shithead wrestler. Gives me a kiss on the forehead and goes, gives me a big hug and goes, you realized your dream of mixing the club rave entertainment with wrestling. And I didn't realize I did it. I just decided to do something different because I love house music. And so I went so well. Everyone did so great. I can't wait to, I'm about to get the venue again in January for the volume 2, and I want to grow it. I want it to be a place where up and comers who deserve it can get their shot to improve, instead of just throwing matches together. Everything is going to have meaning. It's going to eventually be a place where people can learn. I do feel like there are some women companies right now, or just wrestling companies in general, and independents, that are not really focusing on the veteran trainee mentorship. And I feel that's what makes wrestling good. And everyone's just kind of throwing like things together. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. You know, these people don't work well together. I don't know why. You just things that don't make sense. So I have my own ideas about stuff. The show went well. And I got a lot of great feedback from the girls too, who really are my vets. They're the ones that taught me this business. So when they were like coming over, they didn't even want, I got them, everyone nice, like Hilton, hotels. I wanted them to be comfortable. I'm like, we're not doing this stressed out thing. I'll deal with the stress. That's my problem. But they were like, no, you have something good. Like, fly us in a day or two early so that we can help you with stuff, do promos. And they're like, we'll just stay at your house. I was like, no, you know what? My apartment, like, yeah, my apartment's cozy, but like, don't you want like a nice hotel? They're like, no, we want to stay with you. So they're like so excited to see what we can pull out of all of our brains. You know, like when I hired my friends to wrestle for me, I wasn't hiring them just to wrestle. I hired them and paid them appropriately because of their brain. You know, I don't want to worry about whether you can do an arm drag correctly. I don't want to do that. Figure it out on your own. I got people to pay. I got to make sure that it goes and it's profitable. I had a lot of trainees step in for refs when like I had refs cancel and this and that, and commentators cancel. So people stepped up to make the show happen. And I'm so glad that everybody left the first WrestleDeck show feeling the WrestleGasm. I think we all left like that. So I think like if I can create the WrestleGasm with my own like brain, thumbs up. Thumbs up.
So now that you were on the other end of putting the whole show together, what was your favorite and then not so favorite part of it as a whole?
As a whole, my favorite, I said it was like giving birth, because I was like working so much to be able to afford the quality production and all that. I didn't want to let down my girls and not pay them. I wasn't going to be that type of promoter. I think I'm trying to like change people's expectations, you know, so people get treated right. And I felt like I had a baby. So it was like months and months of like, I mean, I did all my graphics. I do all the design. I did pretty much everything. I only outsourced to things that were like, you know, ring rentals, camera. It's not something I can pull out my ass. I'll hire someone to do it. And when I was hearing the response from the crowd, I probably had like 120 people. I had 300 tickets to sell. I'd be happy with 60. Got double that. And to hear people react to the show, which by the way, I wrote with Tracy Taylor 20 minutes before the first bell. We were just like, we gotta write. We gotta see who's wrestling who, blah, blah, blah. Like we had to change everything. Now, that's what I loved most is the reward that came from it. Now, what did I hate most about it? Or like, there was a few things. I see why people don't want to be promoters. I get it. I would say this. Okay, number one. Okay, it's a list. You ready? Number one, the stress of knowing that if this doesn't go well, my reputation is gonna go in the gutter. Like my boyfriend was like, I had gotten to the ER. I gotten really sick and missed about a week and a half of work, which in stripper life, that's a lot of money you're losing. And I needed this money. So my boyfriend was like, who runs shows too? He goes, just change the date and just throw everyone out. Like do it a week out. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be that person. That's something that happens when you really, really, really have to. And I didn't believe that I really, really needed to. So I sacrificed my sanity and made it work. So there's that. There's people canceling. Other people that I hire, like just no showing, or they don't text me back. Like half the girls I had to chase so hard for like promo pictures and send me this, send me that, because like I'm at home. Like I have a full-time job during the day. I dance at night. When I have 4 or 5 hours to myself, which is rare these days, I'm sitting at my computer putting the show together. I'm doing graphics. I'm, buying flyers, whatever, right? Emails, all that. So at least a few girls, like when they would text me back with like their promo or whatever, their pictures and this, do this. Oh my God, I loved it. I was like, oh, you're making it so easy for me. This is great. This is great. The next day, so Sunday I had off. Sunday I ended up having drinks with some of the girls in my apartment. Monday I took the day off, and I called my boyfriend. And I was literally like, this like promoting hurts different. It just hurts different. The kind of tiredness, like, and wrestling makes me tired. Don't get me wrong. It would knock me out for days if I had a really hard weekend. There's nothing like it. It's a stress. Like my body experienced something new and it was horrible. Would I do it again? Yes. And I am. I would do it again. I see why no one wants to be a promoter, but also going through my first experience of running a show, I see why we do need real wrestlers that know what's going on, actually pulling the strings. I see a lot of like fans that want to run wrestling. They have the finances or whatever to do it. And for the most part, this is just my opinion. I may get a lot of heat for it. I don't think that's their place. I don't think that's their place to like book or because they don't understand like who works well with who like we got to keep separated because they don't get along, and how do we book it like that? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't have these skills that come from being in the business. And I wish we saw more experienced people in the wrestling industry kind of take the reins of putting either the show on themselves or being a part of something in that manner. So I hope to kind of change wrestling in that way. I mean, it really started because people were always saying, oh, women aren't in charge in wrestling, women, this and that. And I'm like, okay, I'll just do it then. I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I agree. We need to be doing it. So I just did it. And I hope that kind of, I think something that's important to me, maybe to like my self-esteem, is that I'm seen as like I want to motivate people. I want to inspire people. Everything at my wrestling show was 100% like so not selfish, no motives, whatever. I mean, even I had like Christina Von Eerie. I flew her from Sacramento. I don't even know the girl. I think we wrestled one time for Global Force for Jeff Jarrett, and it was just like a fluke match because I was really depressed and I did not do well. And we never really like stayed in contact. We knew who each other were, but she came and we actually hung out the next day at my apartment drinking. And she was like, I know that you had no internal motives for this, no internal motives. And that definitely made me feel good because wrestling is filled with people with motives. Like, I didn't put the show on to put myself over. I wanted the show to get over, and I wanted my girls to be treated right and to have a good time and not be stressed about it. So I'm glad that, she's a new friend now. I'm glad that she believes in the product. She even said, girl, I've never offered to help anyone with their wrestling show. I want to help with this one. And I was like, okay, cool. Awesome. And I motivated. I inspired. It makes me feel great. You got to get in on it too, girl. So like, also on the side note, I'm hearing from a lot of the other girls that they're like texting me and they're like, so-and-so, like someone that a few others that I would love to hire as shows pop off. They're like, looks like y'all had a great time. That show looked cool, this and that. And I was like, oh, I have these people, these television, like indie people or whatever. They want to work. They want to be on my show. I just did one show. I'm just a shithead. Like, I just love wrestling. Like, I didn't think that, like, do I think I'm good? Yes. Do I think I'm the best? No. But I was like, oh, they want to work for me? Okay, I will hit them up. Give me their number. Let's get it booked. And I want people to be excited about wrestling. So I love that you're bringing this up about like not being excited about wrestling and this and that, because that was another one of my motivations in creating or recreating the sisterhood that we know it to be.
And I love that because I feel the reason why we've always clicked is because we both were taught, even though we had two totally different timelines of wrestling and entering it, we were taught the old school way. We were taught, like when you were saying earlier about, it's about pretty much passing the torch, the vet and the trainee. It's not about the vet being all, well, I'm the vet, blah, blah, blah. It's about, okay, you're a vet, so you've had a career, you've had the experiences, and so you pass that down. And people in the past, when we first started, they passed that down to us. And so it's this feeling of paying forward this business, not because you're trying to be like, oh, look at me, I'm so great, I pay forward the business. It's like, it's a no-brainer.
I'm a promoter now. I own a wrestling women's company.
Right.
Look at me, I'm a boss. At all.
It's not, it's not from the ego, it's just doing what's right. That's all it is. It's very simple. And doing what's right is giving back that energy, which is what we were taught. That's when you train people or you smarten them up and how things are or whatever, so that they know moving forward, that's how it is. And then when they get to a point to where they're in that career where they can mentor people, and it's like supposed to be a cycle. And that was the other thing that was attractive to me in wrestling when I first was getting into it, was seeing that. Like, I just remember absorbing, even when I was just like first year in, it was very clear who had been doing it for a long time. Even in the little San Bernardino school I was at, you know, nobody was there on TV and all this, but it was just those old school people that were sleeping in their cars for shows, doing it, getting their tapes out there, getting their work out there. And it wasn't that they were trying to job out the trainees. It was, they enjoyed, and it made them feel a new purpose and fulfill that purpose of sharing that knowledge and sharing that experience in hopes to inspire, like you're saying, and help others. And I kind of feel like in this world we're in now with social media, and you don't have to put too much effort for people to see you just to send, you not even an email, a text. Oh, I got this promoter's number here. I'm texting you on YouTube. This is my match. Like, it's so easy that I feel a lot of that old schoolness got lost in translation.
Well, I think like this is, you're right, because I see it just like that too. I think independent wrestling is not fostering those relationships. I think also like in regards to my show, because I don't want just like the famous and the best. I want to help raise new stars, but you have to be picked, if that makes sense. There's this, wrestling is for everyone. It's for everyone. Yes, it is, but you got to earn it. There is it is exclusive. So it's also my duty to hire up and coming stars that are going to be good matches for the veterans that I put them to learn from. If I'm going to be setting up these relationships, I can't bring in someone that's going to have a bad attitude or thinks they already got it or anything like that. And talking about with the social media thing, it's kind of taught a lot of newer wrestlers and maybe even some that are, our generation, that you want praise from fans before you want praise from your vets. And I never everyone wants fans and to be loved in that way. But what I was really chasing is to make sure that I impressed my vets and that I showed them that I was paying attention. and that I get so much more thrill out of that than my fans. I love them. I love my fans. I have very, very dedicated fans who have stuck by me throughout my whole career and are not going anywhere. But like even watching my mentors and my veterans teach me, it taught me how to pass it down. And that is like the basis for my show. I want to keep it. I'm trying to keep that alive because I realize good wrestling happens. More people have wrestlegasms, things like that, you know. Just without that respect of who's come before you, dude, the business goes to shit, man. It goes to straight shit. Absolutely. And that's on talking shit.
There you go. Well, before we end this, is there anywhere people can see it online?
Yeah, so right now, Volume 1 is being edited. We're doing fancy graphics and all that. I will be announcing everything on the Instagram, which is just WrestleDex, WrestleDex. So the Instagram is best. Also, the Facebook page, WrestleDex. That's where I'll make all my announcements. I'm planning to have it streamed. So you can do pay-per-views. I'll have DVDs. I'm creating merch right now. So definitely follow the Facebook and the Instagram for all WrestleDex updates.
Awesome. Well, until next time, everyone. She's ACR. I'm Shelly. And we will be continuing to talk some shit. Adios.